Back there. Are you keeping an eye on the janitor's daughter? We'll check if she can do basic math. Instead of recognizing Mariana Oliveira's potential, Professor Regina Montoya wanted to humiliate her by making her answer an impossible calculation. Nobody could have predicted what would happen when the young black girl approached the board with quivering chalk. Mariana whispered, "There's a mistake in your equation." And the room went quiet. What occurs if the unseen are resistant to erasure? At Westlake Academy, where pupils were distinguished by their money and prestige. It was just another typical day. In an attempt to blend in, Mariana Oliveira, the daughter of the janitor, sat in the back row of the arithmetic classroom. Mariana knew it would be another day that her skills would go unappreciated when teacher Regina Montoya arrived with her stiff stance and calculating eyes. Without hesitation, the teacher started writing equations on the board. Her voice reverberated across the class. But she never looked at the back row. Tell us where you are watching from before we head back. Make sure to subscribe if this tale resonates with you, because I have something very unique planned for you tomorrow. Who was able to figure out this equation? Ms. Montoya challenged the group by asking. The pupils were reluctant, and the room was quiet, but Mariana knew the answer right away. The impulse to lift her hand nearly made her fingers shake. But she refrained. She was aware that she would be humiliated once more if she were discovered. She opted to be quiet, taking in the teacher's remarks as her peers failed to comprehend. Mariana's back ached sharply as she writhed in the shattered chair. Constant physical pain served as a reminder of the chair's flaw, the weight of the mental humiliation and the disdainful stares from everyone around her. However, were what truly stung. She was aware that she would always be viewed as less than because she was the janitor's kid. And the hurt seemed to grow with each insult the teacher spoke. She found solace in math, but she felt stuck there. Mariana received a chilly stare from teacher Montoya, who seemed to be observing her for the first time. Mariana, you finally made up your mind to sit with the others? She smiled cynically as she spoke, with all eyes on her. The room went silent. Mariana bowed her head, the humiliation pressing down on her. Mariana knew she would always be the last to be acknowledged, regardless of her accomplishments. But the teacher took great pride in it. Mariana came home to the smell of her father, Carlos Oliveira, preparing chili, which she knew so well, always trying to provide the best for his daughter. Carlos worked as a security guard at night and as a janitor at the school. They had a unique bond because he had taught Mariana arithmetic since she was a young child. They felt the closest to one another at that very moment, even though he didn't have a college degree. Mariana knew that her father appreciated the beauty of numbers and always pushed her to explore her sharp mind away from uninterested observers. Mariana noticed the weariness in Carlos' eyes, yet he never complained. To make sure she received a quality education, her father worked 2 jobs from dawn to dusk. The long hours occasionally made him uneasy, but his main wish was for Mariana to have the possibilities he was never given. Despite experiencing back discomfort from physical strain, he consistently supported his daughter's academic endeavors. He thought she had a bright future because he saw her potential. Mariana felt the burden of being different at school. She was frequently assessed without being seen by her peers, since she was the daughter of the janitor. She felt invisible while people whispered about her past and looked at each other behind her back. Mariana realized that people who just saw her as the janitor's daughter would not recognize her academic talent, even though she had the answers to many problems. Nevertheless, Mariana dedicated herself to her studies and hoped that one day others would appreciate her accomplishments. Mariana and Carlos sat down to study every night, using his little mathematical knowledge. He assisted Mariana in comprehending more difficult ideas. His faith in her fired her spirit, and he thought she could do great things. Mariana began to revere those moments because she felt her father's unwavering love and support. Despite the hardships outside of her, no matter where it came from, it was he who constantly reminded her of her value. Regina Montoya, the teacher, arrived in the classroom the following morning with her customary firm manner. As usual, she was staring at Mariana, who was seated in the rear. She appeared to be searching for a chance to make the young girl feel inferior. With a faint smile, the teacher declared, "Today we will have a surprise test." Mariana was aware of the impending event, known for her disdain for pupils such as herself. The teacher was preparing another attack. Mariana sensed the tension building, but she kept it to herself. The instructor started writing a challenging equation on the board. Mariana instantly recognized the equation. She felt uneasy at the thought of exposing herself once more, but her brain processed it fast. Mariana was aware that she would most likely select a member of the privileged class to take on the task. When Ms. Montoya asked someone to address the problem, there was an overwhelming quiet in the room. She glanced around her students, who were all preoccupied and unaware of the situation. Mariana was under increasing pressure while the other students whispered and got ready for the test. The instructor didn't think she was capable. She would undoubtedly pick her to fail in front of the world. However, Mariana experienced a new sensation when she examined the equation. She was confident that she could resolve the issue, even though her fingers were shaking. She pressed them to the desk, thinking that perhaps this was her opportunity to show herself to herself as much as to others. Feeling the weight of the teacher's and her classmates' eyes on her back, Mariana said nothing. She concentrated on the equation, even though she knew Mrs. Montoya was waiting for her to fail. Mariana simply took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and thought about the measures she would take to address the situation while everyone else waited. She began to feel more confident. She knew that she was capable, regardless of what other people thought. Mariana knew she would be chosen when Regina Montoya, the teacher, asked someone to complete the equation. All eyes were on her, and there was a heavy quiet in the room. "Let's see what you've got, Mariana," the teacher remarked with a triumphant smile. Mariana sighed silently and rose from her shattered chair, feeling stronger within despite her tense anxieties. She was no longer able to hide. It was time to reveal her true self. Mariana walked over to the board and saw something before she started to solve the problem. The formula was incorrect. An insignificant notation error that no one else would notice altered the outcome entirely. Making sure no one else saw her faint smile, she inhaled deeply, ignoring the error. Teacher Montoya kept on observing, anticipating Mariana's embarrassment, except for the faint sound of the marker on the board. The room was quiet. Mariana was fully aware of what to do. Mariana started to fix the equation on the board with increasing assurance. She swiftly revised the problem and made the required changes. Her classmates stared at her as the numbers moved beneath her fingertips. She went on, the steps of the solution flowing naturally. Even though no one else seemed to grasp, Mariana was in charge and had a newfound sense of math. She eventually drew the entire solution on the board as each hand movement grew more fluid. The ensuing quiet was quite tangible. Incredulous, her classmates gazed at the board, unable to conceal her uneasiness. Ms. Montoya searched for an error, but was unable. Mariana felt certain that her response was accurate. Slowly, she turned to face her teacher. "Is that right?" Quietly, without questioning her, but with extraordinary assurance. She requested, unable to speak. Ms. Montoya simply gazed at Mariana. Mariana felt for the first time that she was at last not invisible, and the entire class was in disbelief. Regina Montoya, the teacher, was clearly upset. She searched the board for a weakness in Mariana's solution, but was unsuccessful. Her throat became caught with the words. There was a long period of stillness, as no one in the room dared to speak. One could feel the tension in the room. Mariana knew there was no going back. With the serenity that was starting to take her, she had demonstrated to everyone that her intellect could solve problems that many thought were insurmountable. A wave of relief washed over her. A silent pride rose within Mariana. She had been hiding for so long because she thought it was appropriate to conceal her intelligence. But then everything was different. A sense of empowerment took the place of the burden of years of humiliation and obscurity. The first sign of genuine freedom she had ever experienced was the covert smile that appeared on her face. She had not only figured out the problem, but she had also overcome the imperceptible barrier that had prevented her from speaking. Her students were in disbelief. Others still couldn't believe Mariana could solve such a difficult issue, while others regarded her with a mix of respect and incredulity, as someone who actually understood mathematics with scary ease. They had never considered her a threat. Their perception of her will never be the same after that. But Mariana was aware that many people were still shocked and could not believe a student like her could achieve such a feat. Teacher Montoya's face was now strained and pale. But she said nothing. She was obviously confused by what had just transpired. Mariana's correction and her own error were unacceptable to her, although she had always thought she had total control over the classroom. Montoya's authority was called into question by this conduct. She felt Mariana's powerful stance slipping through the gaps of her insecurity as she gazed at her fiercely. What was meant to be just another humiliation ended up exposing her own error. Mariana was summoned to Principal Enrique Silva's office following the incident in the classroom. She was aware that she was going to have to deal with more than just being acknowledged for her skills. The principal looked at her attentively. A composed man, in a formal tone. He remarked, "Mariana, we need to talk about what happened in class today." Mariana's gut froze, but not because of dread. She was aware that she would soon be heard. What had transpired in the classroom had been communicated to Ms. Montoya. She reacted instantly and angrily. She was unable to understand that such an unlikely pupil had questioned her authority. She tried to keep her cool as she walked into the principal's office, but her eyes showed how uncomfortable she was. The obviously agitated Montoya remarked, "She just couldn't have done that." She attempted to minimize Mariana's accomplishment by asserting that her answer had been misunderstood, but Mariana had support from Zoe, her only friend at school. Zoe got up fast and declared that Mariana was correct. She also gave a very clear explanation of each stage in her answer. "Teacher, she made no mistakes," Zoe firmly stated. "I saw it. She solved it all by herself." Other pupils started endorsing Zoe's version. The fact was undeniable. Even for the most reluctant, Mariana was far more than anyone had thought. Principal Enrique Silva paid close attention to all that was said. He was aware that there was a problem there that went much beyond a straightforward math issue. It was clear that there was implicit discrimination at play. "We're going to look into this thoroughly." "Mariana," he added, getting up from his chair and turning to face her. "This is a respect issue, not simply an academic one." Mariana felt a sense of relief. She didn't feel invisible for the first time. They were listening to her truth. In the auditorium that afternoon, Westlake Academy was getting ready for a special meeting. There was a noticeable tension. Teachers, parents, and kids convened to talk about Mariana and Ms. Montoya's predicament. A tense atmosphere was created by the bustle of conversation in the crowded room. Mariana felt burdened as she sat between her friend Zoe and her father, Carlos Oliveira. She was a protagonist in her own story for the first time, rather than only a bystander to her own life. Tell us where you are watching from before we head back. Make sure to subscribe if this tale resonates with you, because I have something very unique planned for you tomorrow. The investigation's results were presented by a tall, firm-spoken woman who took the platform. Following a thorough investigation, we discovered a concerning trend of discrimination, especially against minority and lower-income students. Words like "Teacher Regina Montoya displayed attitudes that violate school guidelines" echoed across the crowd. Mariana was relieved and angry at the same time. She realized that her life was going to alter forever as the truth was finally being revealed. Embarrassed and furious, Teacher Montoya sat in the front row. She made an effort to seem calm, but her eyes showed that she was uncomfortable. Her authority seemed to be directly targeted by every word of the investigation. She regarded Mariana with contempt. But she was unaware that she had already lost at that precise moment. At last, the system she thought she controlled was challenging her authority. At the rear of the auditorium, a number of former pupils abruptly sprang to their feet and said that they had also been harmed by Ms. Montoya's actions. Holding her head up, Zoe gazed at Mariana and gave her a hard squeeze on the hand. "Sylv, this is for you," she muttered. The support from the community was strong and unexpected, with everyone around her seeing the truth. Mariana felt stronger than ever. Mariana's father, Samuel Oliveira, took the stage to speak at the meeting. He stood up, surveying the packed auditorium. "I come here to work every day. The janitor is me. Furthermore, nobody has seen my daughter as of yet. She showed herself to us all today," he added, his voice full of emotion. He was Mariana's father, and he no longer feared being invisible. He was more than simply the guy who kept the school corridors clean. His remarks echoed across the room, bringing everyone together to oppose the exclusionary system in place. Samuel's remarks were an appeal for inclusiveness as much as for fairness. Everyone in attendance started to doubt themselves after ignoring the struggles of the most lowly for so long, while some pupils gave Mariana a fresh look. Other teachers started whispering to one another. Something was starting to shift, and the pressure that had always been on her seemed to be lessening. For the first time, Mariana was more than simply the daughter of the janitor. She was a gifted student with a fascinating backstory. Richard Cooper, the president of the council, leaned forward. He looked to the board members and said, "We need to think about this. This matter involves more than just academic proficiency." Cooper's remarks sparked a flurry of whispers in the auditorium. "We must make sure that our school reflects respect for all students, regardless of their background." At last, it appeared like efforts were being made to alter the school's culture. Mariana turned to face her father as the argument went on. There was no mistaking the pride in his eyes. She never thought she'd make it this far. For the first time, she realized that she had discovered herself. Even though the struggle was not yet entirely won, she was no longer marginalized in academics. She was now a respected student and a leader, and she understood that she was responsible for her own future. Mariana was called for a formal evaluation of her academic skills. Following the conference, the director of the math department, Dr. Rivera, was prepared to test her expertise with even more challenging challenges. Mariana sat in front of him with a poise she was unaware she had, despite the fact that the questions were above her level of expertise. She felt more confident rather than intimidated. She was aware of how much she already knew, and every difficulty only made her want to learn more. Dr. Rivera kept a careful eye on Mariana as she worked through the equations with expert precision. "Mariana, you have a remarkable mind," he remarked. The suggestion to study more extensively in a university setting made Mariana's heart race. "I would like to suggest something, an advanced curriculum with a personalized approach, so that you can pursue what you truly deserve." She never thought anyone would have such faith in her abilities. It seemed to her that previously locked doors were starting to open. Mariana told her father about the idea later at home. Even though he was exhausted, Samuel was thrilled. He had always sensed that she possessed a unique quality that others around her did not perceive. "Daughter, I always knew you could do more," Dad remarked, grinning proudly. It was a hopeful yet calm conversation. In addition to encouraging Mariana's dream, her father was prepared to assist her in realizing all of her goals. Mariana smiled after giving it some thought. She was aware that this was the chance she had been hoping for. "Dad, I'm going for it." With her eyes gleaming with resolve, she exclaimed, "I'm going to show the world what I'm capable of." She felt both thankful and excited. She was prepared for anything lay ahead because her journey was only getting started. Mariana was aware that her greatest obstacle to date would be the math competition. She had been invited to participate by the institution, and she diligently prepared. Her father, Carlos, was always by her side, encouraging her to keep going as she spent her evenings working through increasingly difficult challenges. Mariana was exhausted, but her motivation was increasing. She was vying not just for a prize, but also for the opportunity to demonstrate that her skill was worthy of being acknowledged. Mariana sat alongside other intelligent young people on the day of the competition, and they were all equally focused on finding solutions to the challenges. She maintained her composure despite the pressure in the air. Mariana became aware that the issues were more severe than anything she had ever encountered when the questions started to be delivered. She didn't hesitate. Even if the questions were challenging, she felt a stronger bond with mathematics as each equation came to life like a puzzle. Mariana experienced a sense of success as time went on. She never thought she would be able to focus while answering such challenging questions. Her mind was functioning nearly instinctively. She transformed her pre-competition worry into confidence. She was aware that what mattered was that she was giving it her all. She had already defeated herself. Regardless of what transpired after that, Mariana was content but fatigued at the end of the competition. Regardless of the result, she felt that she had accomplished something more significant. Even though she was unsure if she had won, making the trip there had already been a success. She reflected on her journey and the changes she had experienced while she awaited the findings. The world would never be the same. Finally, the big day of the math competition was over. Teachers and students were crammed into the auditorium, anticipating the winner's announcement. Mariana experienced a sense of inner calm despite her nervousness. She was aware that she had done her best. No matter what, her thoughts strayed to the challenging times, the study sessions, and her father's encouragement as the moderator started to declare the winners. No gift could compare to that moment. Mariana's heart raced when the moderator called her name. Mariana Oliveira won first place in the Advanced Calculus Division. After a brief period of silence, the audience burst into cheers. Mariana got to her feet, smiling shyly, but with pride in her heart. She never thought she would receive this kind of recognition. But suddenly she was there, being praised for her gift, which was truly hers. Her eyes locked with her father's as she walked across the stage to accept her medal. It moved him. Carlos Oliveira sprang up and applauded, his eyes gleaming with joy. He was aware of his daughter's struggles to get there. This was the acknowledgement she earned after years of sacrifice and hard work. Mariana went to embrace her father after leaving the platform, and he embraced her tightly. "You succeeded, daughter." His voice was stifled with passion as he uttered, "I always knew you would get there." Mariana considered the significance of this triumph as she examined the prize in her hands. The acknowledgement of her worth was more important than the award alone. She had changed as a result of her father's encouragement, her perseverance, and her battle against hardship. Even though Mariana was aware that this was just the start of a longer road, she felt genuinely triumphant at that precise moment. Mariana started to see that her surroundings were altering after the competition. The once distant Westlake pupils now regarded her with admiration. She was now known for her intelligence and no longer the daughter of the janitor. Mariana was aware of this new appearance, but she understood that this recognition shouldn't be the end objective. Finding her own value was what she cared about. She thought she could finally stop hiding. Prestigious institutions took notice of her after she won the tournament. Mariana was contacted by representatives of some of the top universities, who offered her scholarships and chances to continue her education. Mariana was conflicted throughout the talk with her father. Although she was aware that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, she nevertheless desired to remain near her hometown. Her heart was full with possibilities as well as doubts. She thought about her goals for the future when she sat next to Carlos that evening. "I want more, Dad," she remarked. Confidently glancing at him, Samuel clutched his daughter's hand while crying. "I'm going to follow my path. But I'll also remember where I came from and what you did for me." No matter where Mariana went, he was confident that her future would be brilliant. No matter what she chose, he would always be there for her. Mariana was prepared to take on the difficult journey that lay ahead. She was entering a new world, one that offered chances that had previously seemed unattainable. But she felt that nothing could stop her with the help of her father and the inner power she discovered. Her departure marked a fresh start. She smiled as she bid her home farewell, prepared to face her fate. When Mariana finally made it to the university, she found herself in a strange and difficult setting. She was both anxious and excited since the doors that had before appeared insurmountable were now open. She was no longer a young woman with insecurities who hid behind her own constraints. She would face challenges every day here. At the same time, though, she believed that here was the place where she might develop into her best self. Mariana initially felt a little uncomfortable. There were many intelligent young people at the institution, many of whom came from quite different backgrounds than her own. She understood her path would be more challenging because she is a janitor's kid. She was aware, nevertheless, that this distinction set her apart. Mariana adjusted swiftly, going to lessons with the assurance of someone who had already undergone testing and demonstrated her skills. Mariana was still burdened by expectations in spite of the new setting. She wanted to be someone who deserved to be there, not just a student who happened to succeed. Every excellent grade and every completed project served as a turning point in her own triumph. However, she was still plagued by the worry of being viewed as an anomaly, a systemic anomaly. Mariana was aware that letting other people's expectations determine who she was would be the true problem. When she was exhausted in the middle of the night, Mariana took stock of her accomplishments to date. She reflected about her father, his hardships, and the unwavering support she had always experienced. She felt motivated to keep going by this love and strength. She was aware that the true journey had only just begun and that she was getting closer to her goals with every step. Mariana eventually adapted to the hectic schedule of college life. As she advanced in her studies, the pressure of expectations increased, and every day presented fresh difficulties. Both joy and anxiety came from her teacher's perception of her as a student with enormous potential. Mariana understood that she needed to make an impression, not just to show others how valuable she was, but also to convince herself that the course she had taken was the correct one. Mariana was inspired by the compliments from her professors and peers, but she also sensed an internal pressure. She wanted to be the person who accomplished everything with her own hard work and devotion, not merely the outstanding student. Her mind never stopped working, constantly trying to get better, learn new things, and push herself even more. She was always plagued by the fear of failing and disappointing herself, which only strengthened her resolve. Mariana regarded the class's difficult new project as a chance to shine, but also as a challenge to see how far she could push herself. The most talented pupils in the class were getting ready for the difficult work, which called for inventiveness and in-depth knowledge. Mariana didn't think twice. She threw herself into the project, confident that it would be an opportunity to demonstrate her true abilities. But she also felt pressure to perform to the best of her abilities in order to meet her own expectations. As the project progressed, Mariana came to understand that she was the one facing the greatest obstacles, not anyone else. Her inner power was confirmed by each action she took and each calculation she completed. She was evolving into more than just an exceptional pupil. She was evolving into the person she had always envisioned herself to be, one who persevered in the face of fear and adversity. Mariana was then taken aback when she ran into a few of her old classmates. They came toward her with genuine curiosity instead of contemptuous eyes. One of the best pupils at the time, Vinicius, stated, "We always knew you had something special." Mariana grinned. But she knew deep down that the appreciation she now felt for herself was what counted most. The rest would be easy. That evening, Mariana sat down to think back on her adventure with her father, Carlos. Despite the fact that her life was changing, she understood that her real mission was to keep going for her goals while never losing sight of what had led her there. "Dad, I know who I am now." Her father smiled proudly and said, "I always knew you would be great, my daughter, and I'm going to keep making history." If this story resonated with you, tell someone who needs motivation to stand up for what's right. Remember that empathy and respect have the capacity to change lives. And sign up for more transformational stories. Remember to never undervalue anyone based solely on their outward appearance.